Coach, I know you got the game against Florida State on Wednesday. Just what have you seen from them, and how do you think they match up against your team?
Man, they're good. I think they're one of the, if not the most talented team in the league. Obviously, being able to switch 1 through 5, obviously with a talented freshman at 6'9" running the point, they do a good job. MJ Walker's playing well. They've got a really good basketball team. When you look at the way they play, they're starting to pick you up full court. They make it tough on you defensively, and you just got to figure a way to score against those guys. Great size as one of the teams in our league where they're big at every position.
Jonas Pope, you're up next. Go ahead.
Coach, now that you've had some time, a couple of days off, and probably going back and watch a little film, have you pinpointed one thing that's kind of caused the turnovers and the missed shots in the last couple of games, or just hasn't been your day the last couple of games?
Well, a lot of it, Jonas, is that it's so much parity in this league. And I think a lot of people, they don't realize that when you look at our league, that on any given night, you can win a game or you can lose a game. Now, as a guy who loves to force turnovers, certainly I'm not happy with the way that we're turning the ball over. And I wish I could go to one or two guys, Jonas, and say, hey, man, you got to protect the ball. But it's been a collection of a bunch of guys who have turned it over. We've got, when you look at the last game, I think we had 16 turnovers, but it was 2 from one guy, 3 from another, added 1 from this guy and all that other stuff. We just have to protect the ball a lot better. That's expected when you're playing, basically 3 guys that are freshmen at the guard position when you talk about, Sebron and Cam Hayes and also Shaquille Moore. But I need our veteran guys to do a better job of taking care of the basketball. In that case, we haven't done that. When you look at the 2 games we played, man, what a great game we played against Clemson. Obviously, who's going to be, I would guess, inside the top 15 when the polls come out today, that obviously we led and could have won the game. And against Miami, we played against a good Miami team that, and I say good team because obviously they had the opportunity to beat Clemson. They had the opportunity to beat Virginia Tech, and they showed up and played well. That game, we didn't have it offensively. We just didn't score the basketball offensively, and I thought that affected us. But it's such a thin line, Jonas, in this league this year with turnovers and mistakes or missed free throws that it can go one other way, and we got to get better at those situations.
Have you gone, one follow-up, have you gone to your older guys and told them, hey, I need you guys to be better and settle guys down late in the game?
Yeah, Jones, we took off yesterday, and I had individual meetings this morning with pretty much all of our players, just as something I normally would do anyway. But one of the things that we talked about is what we need from you and how I feel like you're playing at this moment, and giving them an opportunity to see, what they thought their play looked like. A lot of times guys see something different than you do, and we typically come together as a understanding of what we do moving forward.
Justin Williams, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Coach. You got 2 games coming up this week against teams that won't have played for 2 weeks when you guys meet them. And I know every game this year has been uncertain. Everything's up in the air. But because of the situations with COVID this year, does that change how you guys prepare for games based on do you maybe spend a little bit more time working on things that you guys do than scouting the other team than you would in a normal year?
Well, the toughest things, Justin, that I've had to deal with as a coach is dealing with situations where you guys may not realize that we don't have several guys practicing ourselves. Because even though you might not have COVID, we've got this thing set up pretty much. If any of our guys have some type of symptom, we will hold them out of practice just to make sure we take care of everybody else. And so, for example, Braxton Beverly did not practice one day heading into the Miami game because he had an injury. And then Thomas Allen, who had some symptoms, who turned out to be negative, he got 45 minutes of practice in 2 days because we were waiting, from his results. And so what we don't take in consideration, even though it's COVID, we don't think about the natural things that would happen if it wasn't COVID. Sometimes there's flu, sometimes there's illness, sometimes there's other stuff. COVID has kind of changed the way we even enter practice. And so just because our team may not report that we have a positive in COVID doesn't necessarily always equal that you have everybody in practice. And so to go to your question, we have to a lot of times try to work on ourselves and sprinkle in enough stuff to talk about each team. But I could get a call today from our doctors or from Florida State or even Georgia Tech to say, hey, the game's not on. And so you got to have a good balance of trying to make sure that you clean up the things you need to clean up, and then obviously be prepared to play against that team you're supposed to face on Wednesday.
And I have a quick follow-up about like COVID scheduling and everything. I know your ACC opener against Louisville was postponed in mid-December. Has there been any conversations to this point about rescheduling that game when it could possibly take place?
Yeah, and what happens is that there's a lot of conversation between the ACC and our sports administrators, and there'll be dates that will be thrown out and see if any of the games that we miss, if they can be replaced, or it just so happens if there's a team that you're supposed to play one week that certainly can't play and you got an opening in your schedule. And so there are conversations. I know a lot of people will say, man, are those games, I know we're saying postponed, but are those games going to be canceled? That's not the way any coach or the ACC looks at it. We all are trying to find a good time if those games could be made up, and we all want to make them up. We all want to play the games.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
James Henderson, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, I hope you're doing well this morning. I wanted to ask you about DJ. I know he leads you guys in field goal percentage and free throw shooting, but the last game he only got 7 shot attempts. I'm just wondering, in general, is it tougher to get big men the basketball than it is to, obviously, if you've got a go-to guard?
Yeah, well, I don't know about tougher. Sometimes, James, that just depends on the flow of the game. A lot of times it depends on, how a team is defending any of your players, especially post guys. Sometimes there is a double where the guys have to pass it out. In our situation with DJ, I think we've done a good job of getting them the ball in certain spots. But we've had a couple games where we have turned the ball over and not been able to get him the basketball. So when you look at us, if you just take this small sample size of just the Miami game and we turn the ball over 16 times, maybe we get him 4 more shots out of those 16 turnovers that we had, and it makes a big difference. And he's playing really good basketball, and certainly our guys have made an effort to throw the ball inside to Manny and also DJ this year, opposed to what we've done in the past.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
David Teal, you are up next.
When I was looking at your net rankings this morning, and because you missed the Michigan game, your non-conference strength of schedule isn't what it would have been, probably not what you would want it to be. You wonder how the selection committee come March is going to try to parse all this and all the impact that COVID has had on teams and schedules and starts and restarts?
David, I have no idea. Man, I think everybody on this call, if you can figure that out for us, man, you would help us out. Listen, it's a tough job. Do you take the eye test? Non-conference is not non-conference. Typically we would have 11 non-conference games to have a sample size of who we get a chance to play. How much do you weigh the conference games? How much do you weigh your conference game? How much do you take here's a different thing that nobody's looked at is, do you put the same amount of emphasis on away games when there are many places they're not fans? I'm sure when the net was created, one of the things they considered about a road game is having to go into hostile environments. Is that the same? What do you think about a neutral court game? Is a neutral court game way the same now as a home game or away game? So, man, they've got a tough job at the end of the day trying to figure it out. I don't know if the tool will be the net will be used as much. I don't know what it is. I hope that as we get closer to decision-making time, that they'll make it clear to most of the teams what they're basing some of their decisions off of it, because this may be, everybody may be upset because I will say this, if it's not cleared up or how you're selecting teams, it could be a big time unbalance of what happens on Selection Sunday.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
We have time for one more for you, Kevin, and it will come from Mark Armstrong. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Kevin. Good morning. Your team, for stretches of lots of games, plays with supreme confidence, and then there's also been a number of games where they look like they're holding on for dear life at the end, and it leads into the turnover talk that you had earlier. Can you coach kind of mental toughness into a team, or does that have to come from inside the players?
Well, we can certainly give them confidence, Mark. And anytime, as a coach, I certainly pride myself on making sure my guys have the most confidence that you have. But this is the first year since I've been here that I think that I've had to play at least 2 or 3 freshmen at the guard spot. And so when you look at that, you're playing Shaquille and both Cam starter minutes. And they certainly deserve it because they're really good basketball players. But when you got so many guys handling the basketball, opposed to in the past, we typically had, we had the guy who, Markel Johnson led the league in assists. And so majority of the years that I've been here, he's had the ball in his hands more than anybody else. Now I've got, Shaquille with it. I've got Cam with it. I also have Devin that will handle basketball. And so to go back to your original question, we just got to play well. I don't think that those guys are nervous. We just haven't had great ball security. And it's weird because this is exactly how we play against other teams, and teams typically turn it over against us. And we got to get better in those situations. And we're not turning it over full court. We're turning it over half court. And that's one of the things we got to get better at.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Kevin, thank you for the time today. We appreciate it. Good luck this week.
Guys.
All right, we will move right along. Next up today is Mike Bray from Notre Dame. I believe he's on here.